Greetings, my name is Kyle and I'm here with Yu-Ching. Welcome to the UVA Diversifying Psychology Visit Day. We are here to represent the social area. And so here's a little bit about me. So I'm a second year PhD student. I work primarily with Adrian Wood in the Emotion Behavior or EB lab. And I am interested in how social exploration influences our friendship networks. I initially came to graduate school because I was interested in understanding how our behavior and environment influence how we gain and maintain friendship. In applying to grad school, I applied to 4 different sociology PhD programs, 2 social, and 1 developmental psychology PhD program. I did this because I was taught to focus on the problem at hand rather than the discipline. And so I ended up applying to a wide variety of different PhD programs. I decided to join social psychology specifically because I enjoyed the interplay between the micro, and the meso factors of analysis that this department specifically employs. I chose UVA because of the fit with my advisor, Adrian Wood, because I felt like she could support me the most within graduate school.
So hi, my name is Yu-Ching. I am currently a 5th year in the social area. My main primary advisor is Ben Converse, and I mostly study motivation and judgment and decision-making. So I applied to social psych PhD programs because I am obsessed with like purely social psych research. I did research for maybe six to 7 years before I got into a PhD program, and I just loved it the more that I got into it, and that's why I applied. In total, I applied for 2 years before getting in. So the first time I applied, I had only maybe 4 years of research, but I hadn't been a lab manager yet. And I didn't really get into any programs then. So I kind of like hunkered down and got a lab manager position, which is a full-time research position. And after doing that for 2 years, I got into a couple of my dream programs. So that was pretty awesome. As for the reason why I chose UVA, so I'd say one of the main reasons is for the culture of the grad students and the faculty in the social area. So, for example, I noticed that I really enjoyed that I felt kind of like the social area grad students were, I mean, it sounds corny, but like I genuinely felt like they were like a family, and they were trying to get to know their new family members during the recruitment day. So that's what I really liked about it. And they also cared a lot about answering our questions, making sure that we had all the information that we needed to make a good decision. And I also appreciated the culture that the faculty seemed to have. So I felt like the faculty seemed to get along really well, and they also seemed to respect each other, especially like the people who had more power in the area. I felt like they treated the more junior faculty with a lot of respect. So that's also something that I picked up on and that I still appreciate being here. Second reason is for the advisors. So I talked to the previous advisees of both of the people that I got accepted to work with. And I think one thing to take into account when you're making that kind of decision is not only like what kind of person works well with that advisor, but also like, if you match the specific kind of student that works well with that advisor, because I wouldn't say there's like, categorically bad or categorically good advisors. It's more like some people can work well with some advisors, and then some people might have difficulty with that same advisor. So I think it makes sense to think about how similar you are with the person who's giving you a critique of the advisor. And then the third reason why I chose UVA is because I felt like they were more open to collaboration here. And I also really enjoy the research topics of the other social psych professors here. So I felt like, and I still feel like I have a lot of really interesting conversations with the other grad students here. So that's one of the other main reasons why I chose here. And then I think one last thing I wanted to mention is I didn't think about this before I made my decision as to where to go, but I realize now that one thing that does matter is kind of like how well your personality fits with your advisors. So like, I feel like me and Ben have similar styles of humor. And I feel like that kind of helps, make our relationship, it makes it like meetings happier and easier to go through. So I feel like that's one thing that I underestimated before I got into the actual program, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with your advisors. So it makes sense to, just be able to make each other laugh once in a while. I think that's it for this one.
So what is social psychology? So more specifically, social psychology, as Tim Wilson would say, is about construals and how a person construes the environment. More specifically, social psychologists are interested in all aspects of personality and social interaction. So we explore the influence of the interpersonal and group relations on human behavior. Our department specifically is competent in affect and social cognition, social emotion, judgment and decision making, self-regulation, cultural psychology, subjective well-being, and social networks. I put social networks there. It's not on the website. I am pretty good at analyzing social networks, so that's one thing that I'm competent in, maybe not the area as a whole, but we do have expertise in social networks within the psychology department, more broadly speaking. And so if you were a student in the social area, this is what your course planner or your course guide would look like for the next four plus years. Your first year, you start off with a quant methods course. That's taught by Hudson. He's a great professor as well. And you start off with a seminar, which is the 600 or the 7,600 course. You start off with any seminar in social psychology, and then this topical research that you see here, the 9,000 level course for 3 credits, that is just independent research with your advisor. And you would take that every semester that you're a grad student. In social lunch or contemporary issues in social psychology, we always call it the brown bag. That's just the time once a week. Usually it's from Mondays from 12 to 1, where we bring in an outside speaker. Typically the first and the second years, as well as the assistant professors, help select the speakers. For instance, my first and second year, I was able to select speakers that I had heard within conferences as well. So it's a good chance to really to get to hear people that you might admire do research as well, or hear them do their research as well. And in your second year, you take another quant methods course and more seminars and a reasoning course as well. This course I believe this course could also be, well, this course is not advanced research methods, but there are typically reasoning courses offered. You just have to look for them. Here you see experimental psychopathology. I don't believe that course is offered anymore, but we do have the forum on scientific and professional ethics, as well as contemporary issues, which again, that is just your brown bag. And then so this semester here, or this third year here, is where you're going to be taking more of your topical research. Now, I believe as a third year, you may not even need to take classes because certain classes can be taken during your first and second year. Like currently, the forum on scientific and professional ethics, you can take that during your second year. And so as you can see here, during your third semester or during your third year, you're taking more and more credits of non-topical research. Until when you get to a fourth year, you will be taking 12 credits of non-topical research. And so you'll be done taking classes. But again, that point usually happens now around the third year. So people are usually done taking classes a little bit earlier, but that just means we take maybe more classes in the fall or the spring of the second semester. And so another requirement within the social area is around the end of your second year or the beginning of your third year. It is a pre-dissertation requirement within our area. And that just states that you must write a publishable paper within your expertise and propose and defend that topic with committee members, with other committee members. You would be able to choose the committee members as well. And it can be people within or outside of psychology as well. And by publishable, we just mean something that you would be able to submit to an academic journal at the end of the pre-dissertation defense. And so after this defense, you actually earn a master's degree and you advance from PhD candidate to PhD student, or from PhD student to PhD candidate. And so you're a PhD student your first 2 years, but once you earn a master's degree, you're then able to call yourself a PhD candidate. And so more specifically, my pre-dissertation is going to be about the psychological costs and benefits of social exploration. I recently collected some correlational data, around 500 students, assessing how their social networks relate to their personality and other different psychological measures. And I'm correlating that, running some tests, and I'm going to write it up for my pre-dissertation in the summer.
Okay. And after you do the pre-dis, you will have to do your comprehensive exams. I think this is around the 4th year. So the comprehensive exam is essentially just writing a theory paper. So you have to write a paper that kind of, takes into account the existing literature and kind of formulate some new theory that makes new predictions. So it's pretty difficult, and it's something that most people haven't done before, so it can take quite a while. Mine in particular was on meaning forecasting. So, how good people are at predicting how meaningful a future experience will be. And similar to the pre-dis, for the comprehensive exam, there's also a defense portion where you have to talk through the paper with the people on your committee, and they will ask you some challenging but also interesting questions about the paper. For the dissertation, there's 2 parts. So you have to first make a proposal. So this is usually going to be done on so usually at this point, you'll probably have a couple lines of research that are ideally working out, and you will pick one of them to write about for your dissertation proposal. So you'll propose maybe 3 or 4 future studies that you want to run given your current data. And then you'll summarize, like what are the studies you want to run? Why do you think it makes sense to run them? And then you're going to defend this. And then once the committee approves it, you will typically maybe half a year to a year after that, you'll do your final dissertation defense. So the defense of the data that you collected from those 3 or 4 studies, you'll defend that with the same group of committee members. I guess mine in particular is on decision-making and sense of meaning. Maybe algorithm study, but probably the first one, because I guess I like that study a lot. So I think that's probably going to end up being my dissertation. I think that's it for this. Can you move to the next slide, Kyle? Okay, and then now I'm going to talk about after finishing grad school. So obviously, most people, when they get into grad school, they think they are ideally want to end up being tenure track professors, maybe at R1 universities. So that's like the typical standard thing that most people do, but I'm going to talk a little bit about industry. So for example, one of the reasons that I chose to go into industry is because, so I guess this surprised me a bit when I got into grad school, but I think I really enjoy being around people during the workday. And I think as an assistant professor, you're going to spend a lot of time in your office and there's going to be a lot of meetings, but I feel like it's a little bit different in that you don't get to typically work closely with other coworkers in person every day. And I get to do that during the school year, but during summer, it's a lot less structured. And I find that I don't know, I really appreciate being around a group of, really smart, really interesting people for 40 hours a week. And that is part of the reason why I chose to go into industry. So some of the most common career pathways that people choose, I think the most common one is probably data science. So this is more quantitative, and it's using the statistical skills that you learn in grad school and applying it to industry contexts. So if you want to go into data science, it makes sense to learn more statistical analyses, particularly kind of the more complex analyses. So multi-level models, for example, are useful. So is longitudinal analysis. So being able to do do statistics a little better than the average grad student will put you in a better position for data science positions. A lot of people also go into user experience research, also called UX research. I'd say that this is kind of, it can be pure quantitative, but it's also sometimes a mix of qualitative and quantitative methods. As a psychologist, as a social psychologist, we tend to almost, I don't know, maybe like 95% of us tend to use purely quant methods. So if you want to go into UX research, you'll have to look a little bit more into what is qualitative research, how is it done, see if you're interested in that. But as a UX researcher, you can be either pure quant, you can be pure qualitative, or you can be mixed methods. But I'd say in general, if you want to be more quant, the quant UX research positions are very similar to data science positions. So it's kind of like a spectrum. I wouldn't say that there's a clear boundary between data science and UX research. So I think those are by far the most common things that people do. A third one that's less common is consulting. I don't know, admittedly don't know a lot about that, but I do know that you need to be good at solving quantitative problems for consulting. And I think that's about it for this slide. Yeah, so feel free to email both of us questions or asking the video chat. We are more than happy to talk with you about, what it's like being in the program, how this program is different from other programs. My email is the first one here, YL2TV, and Kyle's is the second one. And you can also contact Kyle or what's the word, follow him on Twitter if you want to be friends with him. But yeah, I think that's about it for social area, unless Kyle, you have anything else to add?
Nope. Thank you so much, Yu-Ching. Right.
Okay, cool. I guess that's the end for our presentation. Thank you.